Hello. No doubt by now you've heard that Barack Obama has left the Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago. Barack gave two reasons for this. One, that the church's stance on many issues is not compatible with his long-held beliefs. How can this be true? By his own testimony, Reverend Jeremiah Wright is the one that led him to the Lord, that he has been his pastor, his teacher, his mentor for the past 20 years. He is the one that helped Barack formulate his beliefs. How can his long-held beliefs be now said to be different? The other reason he gave is that his presidential campaign has brought unwarranted media attention on the church. This is only partly true. It has brought media attention onto the church, but it is certainly not unwarranted. We have learned through this media coverage that many of the persons, many of the long friendships that Barack has obtained are in direct relation to this church. Even his friendship with Bill Ayers. It is a fact that Bill Ayers' father, Thomas Ayers, was one of the founders of this church, and that it was founded for his father's own political reasons. Is there perhaps another reason that Barack has left this church? We can look back into spring of 2006. The United Church of Christ, which is the mother church of Trinity United in Chicago, was making a list of planned guest speakers for a conference that they intended to hold in June of 2007 in Hartford, Connecticut. And Barack Obama was placed on that list, seeing how he was a senator from the state of Illinois. And because of that status and being a member of the United Church of Christ, he was asked to speak there and to speak on the Christian faith and how it affects his public service and how the Christian faith would affect anyone operating within the political arena. In the ensuing months after Barack declared that he was a candidate for the presidency, the United Church of Christ states that they made it perfectly clear with Barack Obama, with his Washington office, and with his campaign, that this speaking engagement could in no way be used for political reasons. And if it was, that it might affect the tax-free status of the United Church of Christ. Barack Obama agreed to this. He was well aware of this. And yet you can tell by the speech that he wrote for the occasion that he conspired to break that word of trust, to break that agreement with his own church. June 23, 2007, when Barack arrived in Hartford, Connecticut with his campaign, they set about putting up 40 tables around the outside of the Hartford Civic Center, in which they offered stickers, pamphlets, campaign signs, and while Barack himself was speaking from the pulpit, after a brief couple of paragraphs talking about how he was led to the Christian faith by Jeremiah Wright, he launched into a campaign, talked about how he'd been traveling around the country and how everyone was eager for change. And he talked about many of the issues which he thought were important in his campaign, how he was fighting for a greater minimum wage, how he wanted to end the war in Iraq, how he wanted to establish a universal health care system which would be in effect by the last year of his first term. He preconceived to break his promise that he had made to his own church. And as a result of this, the Internal Revenue Service launched an investigation into the United Churches of Christ. And it was just a couple of weeks ago that the IRS determined that they could not blame the church or any of its delegates because they had Barack Obama's word that he would not use this occasion to campaign, and that it is entirely Barack Obama's fault. Speaking on behalf of the church, one Reverend Crabtree asserted, if this is how Barack Obama keeps his word to his own church, and then by breaking it gets the church into trouble with the Internal Revenue Service, we really have to wonder whether any oath of office that he takes will be worth the air he speaks it with. Wonders if any oath of office he takes will be worth the air he speaks it with. And now we've seen in the Trinity United Church just last weekend, Father Michael Pfleger, and how the pastor of the church, knowing full well what Father Pfleger had planned on saying, invited him up to that pulpit. The father mentions how he is often very political, at which time Otis Moss could have stopped him, but he did not. And then he launched into a racial tirade against Hillary Clinton and how she thought that she was entitled because she was white, and how she was crying because the black man Barack Obama was getting in her way, and how there's a whole bunch of white people out there crying because of this. So you can see, just by watching the videos of this, how everyone in the church cheered this man on in a racial tirade. And then the pastor himself, Reverend Moss, thanked the priest for his remarks. So once again, we saw the Trinity United Church in Chicago using its pulpit to campaign for Barack Obama. And once again, we will probably see the IRS stepping in to investigate the United Church of Christ as a result. So I submit to you the possibility, perhaps the United Church of Christ has asked Obama to leave. Thanks for listening.